What's up, guys? So we're reading through Roberta Laundrie's affidavit of the letter that she wrote to her son. This is part two. Go watch part one if you want to see what I had to say in the part one. This is 5 through and 6. And part of 6, you're not going to get, well, I'll flip over to get the whole 6. But here we go. The purpose of the letter was to reach out to Brian while he and I were experiencing a difficult period in our relationship. Brian and I always had a very open and communicative relationship. In the months prior to the trip, our relationship had become strained. Brian and I shared a love of stories, and some of the language in the letter was using similar phrases to describe the death of a mother's love. Bullshit. I'll get to it in a minute. The two books that came to mind are The Runaway Bunny and Little Bear. In addition, Gabby had given Brian a book called Burn After Writing, which contained printed questions to which the reader responded by writing their answers on the page. The back of the book instructed the reader to create a secret book and then destroy by burning after reading. The bottom of the back cover says, "Write, burn, repeat." Brian, Gabby, and I often joked about this book and the importance of being able to express yourself. If you were embraced or simply did not want anyone to know your thoughts or feelings, then the book offered the perfect solution by telling you to burn it. This is where my meaning to Brian came from, and I wrote on the cover of the letter from Brian to burn after reading. In short, I was trying to connect with Brian and repair a relationship as he was planning to leave home, and I had hoped the letter would remind him how much I love him. Bullshit. Like, I'm sorry. I know the letter that everybody thought said there was a shovel. There was no shovel. There never was a shovel. That's all bullshit. Just get it out of your head, because it's not in this letter. It never was in the letter, never will be in the letter, never going to be in the letter. That was a made-up story. And it's always been a made-up story. So whoever put it out, it's made up. Now, let me tell you why it's made up. Before somebody says, well, it has to be true because somebody said so. No, it's not true. 1,000,000,000% it's not true. So, in this letter, it says she will, if he gets put in jail, she will send him a shift or a shife or something. It's a tool that cuts bars in prison. It's not a shovel. It's a tool that cuts bars in prison. And the reason I know it's not a shovel is because Gabby Petito's mom and dad's lawyer for this case said it's not a shovel, it's a shiv to cut bars in a jail. It never was a shovel. That story's bull. It's fake. But it makes this letter worse, in my opinion. Like 10 times worse, in my opinion. Because the shovel afterwards would be horrible. Because people thought the letter was supposedly wrote after Gabby. So, if this was wrote before that, it's almost like they planned this to happen to Gabby before Brian and her even left on this trip. So this letter's worse now, in my opinion, than it was if it happened afterwards. They were both bad, but it's just worse now if this is truly how it happened. It's almost 10 times worse. It's almost like Brian's mother put Brian up to doing it and said she would help him break out of jail. That's crazy. But let's go on to 6. It says, there were some other phrases that I used in the letter which are not found in the books I shared with Brian as a child. However, these phrases were common enough in our circle of friends and family to describe who you could turn to in the most troubled times of your life while I use the words that seemed. I'm only going to read 6. This is going to be in part 3. Seemed to have a connection with Brian's actions and his taking of Gabby's life. I never would have fathomed the events that unfolded months later between Brian and Gabby would reflect the words in my letter. Bullshit. I don't believe that for a minute. I think this lady didn't like Gabby and basically put her son up to this. That's what it seems like to me by this letter. The words in the letter could never have been a comment on the tragic situation as they were written so many months before. My words to Brian were meant to convey my love and support for my son through a light-hearted and quickly remind that my love for him was not demolished and could not be shaken by the miles of separation we would soon be faced with. I call bullshit. This letter sounds worse now than when they were talking about it as something that happened after. People thought this letter come after Gabby died. If this letter come before Gabby died, I think the letter's worse now than after. Yes, both bad, but it's almost like she planned this and put Brian up to it. That's the way I take this letter now. But anyways, guys, go on to part 3. Go back and watch part 1 if you haven't yet.